Boy, what a crappy weekend in Northeast Ohio for football fans. My goodness, it started yesterday with the Ohio State Buckeyes losing at home to Oregon 35-28. And then today, the Browns dominating the Chiefs at halftime 22-10. They played almost a perfect first half. And then they come out and they get dominated in the second half, outscored 23-7 in the second half, and lose the opener 33-29 at Kansas City. Frustrating opening day loss for the Cleveland Browns. Josh Paloha from Waiting for Next Year joining us as he did yesterday on the Buckeyes postgame show. And Josh, how confident were you that something was going to change this time? I'm driving home. By the way, this is a combination of the Browns postgame show and Roadman, driving in the Roadman, because I'm driving back from Jersey's in Canton, where the Stark County Browns backers were hooting and hollering and high-fiving and drinking and eating and thinking this year was going to be different. Well, they're 121-1 since 1999 in openers, but how confident were you the way they played in the first half it was going to be different this year?
The first half gave me plenty of promise. I'm still not worried. It's one of the best teams in the NFL. I'm still not too worried. But the first half, offensively, probably the best first half they've had in a very long time.
They relied on the running game, got big plays out of the running game. Baker Mayfield was taking care of the football, and that's the biggest thing he has to do, and we'll get to his late game interception there that shouldn't have been thrown. But protect the football. Don't turn it over. And the Browns, think about this. Nick Chubb, Mr. Reliable, fumbles. That ends up, I believe, in a field goal, right? Baker Mayfield, the Scottish Hammer. I don't know, maybe was he sleeping because he didn't punt the whole game or what? The snap comes right back to him. He fumbles the snap. They get that. Did they score? I forget which one. They scored a touchdown on one.
It was a touchdown on that one.
What's that?
It was a touchdown on the Scottish Hammers one. Even though we can talk about that, but I still don't understand why he just picked it up and immediately ran. He panicked way too fast.
So 3 points off the Chubb fumble, 7 points off the Scottish Hammer, and then you run out the clock on Mayfield's interception. So perfect first half offensively. Hell, they almost scored on that razzle-dazzle play to end the first half. That's how well things were going for Kevin Stefanski and company. But give Andy Reid and his staff credit. They made adjustments, Josh, at halftime and outscored the Browns 23-7, and they win it 33-29. So turnovers, if they learned anything from today's game, don't turn the ball over and you're going to win a lot of football games if you're the Browns this year, right?
There was a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, which is why I'm more positive about this game than I could be, I guess, because they had the lead for a solid 55 minutes. Yep. If you don't panic with that punt, Scottish Hammer still could have punted that ball off. What was the other one? Oh, Chubb. How often does Nick Chubb fumble? Rarely ever.
Right.
Baker Mayfield's and Baker Mayfield's interception. I don't really blame Baker on that one because you could tell that he was trying to throw it out of bounds and his foot got grabbed and mid throw, and he was falling mid throw and it went short.
Oh, but you got to have a better feel for the pocket there.
That's true. That's true.
You got to lift the play one more down at least. Take the sack, eat it, and see if you can come up with some magic on fourth down there. And it was funny. One of the guys in Jersey's, the manager, Sean, and I were talking. We're like, all right, let's see what Baker's made of. Because remember 2 years ago, Josh, against the Baltimore Ravens in a similar situation, Baker threw the pick to end the game, end the season, I think. And he had to live with that interception the entire offseason. So twice now, they've gone to Arrowhead, went toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs, and you can make the argument should have won one or both of those games, but they come back 0-2 against Kansas City. But at least you know, if they're considered the benchmark in the AFC, at least you know you can play with the Kansas City Chiefs if you meet them again in the playoffs.
You just went toe-to-toe with Kansas City without your left tackle for most of the game and without Odell Beckham Jr. That's the takeaway I take from it. As I told myself before the game that I wouldn't go too high or too low. It's week one. Stuff's going to happen. I mean, even with that Patrick Mahomes 70-yard touchdown, 75-yard touchdown, there's not a single quarterback in the NFL besides Patrick Mahomes that makes that play.
I was trying to think about that. The only other one I think that makes that play is Aaron Rodgers. Okay, he's the only one. But you could make the argument maybe Rodgers doesn't get the touchdown because he underthrows it. But yeah, Mahomes is just special. Mahomes magic. And those two guys, I heard before the game, Baker Mayfield took him on a tour of Texas Tech, I think, when Mahomes was coming out of high school. So they're friends, and now Baker's 0-2 in the last two games against Mahomes, and you could just see, in my opinion, the difference in the second half with Kansas City. What they did was they went into the locker room and they realized that Joe Woods, Kevin Stefanski, and the Browns were not going to give up the big play in the first half, right? And so I still think they were trying to hit the big play and only scored 10 points because they were trying to go for it all. They made the adjustment saying, you know what? We're going to take what they give us underneath. If it takes us a while to score, fine, but we're going to score. And they came out that opening drive. It took half the quarter. And I thought their halftime adjustments to the Browns defense was outstanding. And it ended up providing them with just enough points to win. But the good news, if you want something glass half full, Josh Paloha, if you had the Browns in 5.5, you're a winner today. There you go, right?
Good teams win, great teams cover. That's the saying. And hey, the Browns covered.
All right, give me some individual things or specific plays or things that jumped out at you as you were watching this game.
Defensively, it was easy to say, why aren't the Browns changing it up with Travis Kelce? But there's only so much you can do when they have Tyreek Hill on the outside. You can double team Travis Kelce, but then that means you're single covering Tyreek Hill. That's why the offense is so explosive. When you have the second fastest guy in the NFL, because we'll talk about Anthony Schwartz later. There's not much you can do to stop both. I guess you can try to stop one, but I mean, when you have the best quarterback in the NFL as well, it's just one of those things where you just have to outscore the offense. I mean, I know that's cliche, but it's one of those things where the Browns offense just has to play perfect in order to keep up with Kansas City's offense, and they did that for 3.5 quarters. That's the takeaway I take from it.
Yeah, they went to Schwartz early, and he made some nice plays, but then again, late in the game, they went to him, and he couldn't pull that ball away from the defender. Rookie, he'll learn from that, you hope. Baker Mayfield can't make that mistake as a fourth-year player. Nick Chubb can't make that mistake in a game of this magnitude. You can't give them extra possessions because I thought the Browns did a great job in the first half on that first drive, forcing a field goal. You force KC into a field goal, that's a win for your defense, right? You didn't give up the 7, you only gave up 3. And then I love the aggressive play calling by Stefanski, going for it on 4th down and then going for it on the 2-point conversion after the penalty, going for it again on 4th down. And, like I said, that was pretty much a perfect first half for the Browns offense, scoring 22 points like that. And then in the second half, you can't turn the ball over. You went from perfection to disaster in the second half with 3 turnovers. And you do that on the road against arguably the best team in the AFC, you're not going to win the football game when you lose the turnover battle. And that proved to be the difference.
I'm just, like I said earlier, I'm just glad the game was close. The Browns showed plenty of promise without arguably their best receiver, and on the road in Arrowhead. I mean, that crowd was silent for 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, they were.
And there's plenty to improve on, but there's also plenty to be excited about, which is a perfect scenario for them. That's all I could ask for after week 1 in Kansas City. That was their toughest game of the regular season, and they showed plenty of promise.
They played well, should have won. You can make that argument. OBJ did not play today, as you mentioned there, and I was driving 2 jerseys in Canton and heard that, and I was a little surprised by it, but if they're erring on the side of caution, because there's 17 games this year, I'm fine with them not playing him today. Also, Grant Delpit was out. Who knows if he'll ever play for the Browns, the safety out of LSU. But they were without their LSU safety, Tyrann Mathieu, and that made the Honey Badger not on defense. That's huge for Kansas City. I think that affected KC more than not having OBJ for the Browns, don't you?
I guess you could argue that. I think another big thing, though, was Ronnie Harrison getting ejected in the first quarter, too.
Well,
you can't discuss that.
You can't swing at a player or a coach, no matter what happens to you there. With Delpit out already, and you're a veteran, and you're going up against the best passing offense in the league, you can't do that. So that was stupid on Harrison's part.
We're losing you, Kenny.
Okay, they were going to be fine. And they were up until that final drive when Baker forced the pass there, feeling the pressure on 3rd and long. But Tyrann Mathieu not being out there, I think, really hurt them in the first half. They made some adjustments defensively. Myles Garrett was silent for most of the game, but he came up when he needed to, right? He came up with a huge play, got the sack, got the punt, gave the ball back to the offense. It's all you can ask for if you're the defense right there. And Baker couldn't get it done, and that's you want $40 million a year, Josh. You can't turn the ball over there if you're Baker Mayfield. You've got to find a way to score that game-winning touchdown there if you want to be considered a $40 million a year guy.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. And also, speaking of Myles Garrett, I'd love to know, I know he only got 1 sack in the fourth quarter. I'd love to know how many quarterback pressures the Browns had. It seems like Patrick Mahomes was moving in the pocket a lot. So I know there's no real-time stats for that. I think Pro Football Focus does that a day or two later. But yeah, I'd love to see how many quarterback pressures the Browns had today. I think it had to be a lot.
Joe Jackson won, Myles there with the other. You're right. I thought they made him uncomfortable in the pocket numerous times, made him get out there. But for him, getting outside the pocket, he's almost more comfortable outside the pocket than he is inside the pocket with his, so many different deliveries. He's fun to watch. And that's the other thing. If you didn't have a horse in the race today, because that's what this was a horse race, this was a fun game to watch, man. 33-29. You're, 53, 62 points coming down to the wire. Exciting plays, game-breaking plays. Nick Chubb with a big run. Tyreek Hill, the long touchdown. So a tough way to lose on the road against KC. And you fought, Josh, 121-1 now in season openers for the Browns since 1999. If you went back to 1999 and you were able to get like a parlay for 23 games and you picked the Browns to lose, say, all 23 times, right? You'd be a millionaire right now based on their season opening results and some of the ways they've lost those games. Just heartbreaking, but it is what it is, right? I mean, that's
Kenny, we just completely lost you. All right, we're back.
21-1. You got me back now?
Yeah, you're back.
All right.
It went through a rough stretch there. But the NFL schedule makers haven't. Now we lost you again.
All right. Give me your final thoughts since we're having some issues here.
Are you good?
Give me your final thoughts and we'll wrap this thing up. Do a shortened version of the Browns postgame show here today since I'm driving back in the car.
Final thoughts. I'm excited about this Brown season. They're 0-1, but they have a chance to be 3-1 after 4 games. They showed plenty of promise. And this is the most excited I've been about a Browns team in a long time.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too down on the Browns after this loss. Yeah, for a couple of days, 24, 48 hours. It's upsetting. You could have won. But I think you bring up some good points. The running game looked good. Hopefully Jedrick Will's ankle isn't hurt too bad. You get Ronnie Harrison back after getting thrown out this week. John Johnson III left and came back. Maybe that, I don't know, contributed to, his play getting beat there. Grant Delpit comes back. Sometime, I shouldn't say comes back, actually plays in a Browns regular season game at some point this year. And also OBJ, I don't know if it's going to be next week against the Texans or when it's going to be, but we'll see if that adds a spark to the offense as well. I'm with you. I think they get to 3-1, 4-1, maybe even 5-1 and this will be long forgotten until maybe they have to play the Chiefs in the playoffs in week 18 or 19, Josh.
Yes. I'll call. No, I won't call anything in playoff wise. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Browns Chiefs in the playoffs. Absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it for this, right with the Roadman Browns post-game edition here on Facebook. We'll do a longer version in future weeks after I get home, Josh. We'll set it up so I'm at home, but I've got to do the Guy and Rhoda podcast as soon as I get home tonight as well, breaking this game down. So look for that wherever you find your podcast. You can hear what Michael and I have to say, and then next week with the Buckeyes, the Browns are both. Josh and I will chop it up and see what happens to the Buckeyes and the Browns next week. The Buckeyes have Tulsa, the Browns have the Texans, and I'm already predicting a win for both teams next week, Josh.
2 blowouts. I'll predict 2 blowouts.
All right, sounds good, Josh. Thanks for joining us. That's going to do it for this edition of Riding with
Thanks, Kenny.
the Roadman and the Browns post-game show. Brownies lose today, 33-29, another heartbreaking opening day loss, but keep your heads up, Browns fans. This team went toe-to-toe with the best in the AFC, and the Browns are going to win a lot of football games this year, and I already gave my prediction. I have the Browns winning the division over the Ravens and the Steelers and hosting a playoff game, and I think they'll even get a bye in one of the weeks, and that's a lot of excitement that is ahead for Browns fans everywhere. All right, Josh, be well, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kenny. Drive safe. See ya.
Will do. See ya.